Hey, it's Les from the TV Dudes. This week, as part of our special coverage of Austin Film Festival's 26th year, I chat with Spiros Skintsos about writing for Grimm and Arrow, leading a panel at San Diego Comic-Con, and much more. It's a great interview, and I hope you enjoy. This is Les for the TV Dudes, and I'm lucky enough to be here with Spiros Skintsos. I am so happy to get to talk to you. In doing research, I wanted to talk to you a bit about both the Writers on the Verge program, but also in doing research, you have an idea in your background for some existing IP that I think will blow people away.
Oh, wow.
Tell me about Star Wars versus Barbie.
When
you know Hasbro's and you know or Mattel, Mattel and Disney are down for this.
Yeah. When I was little, I used to write these scripts for my. I used to write these scripts where my sister's Barbie dolls would. Sorry, we have to start that over again because I'm so exhausted. So when I was little, I used to write these scripts where my Star Wars characters would have to defend themselves against my sister's giant menacing Barbie dolls because they were like 12 feet tall.
Yeah, like Attack of the 50-foot.
Yeah, and the Star Wars character was like 3 inches. And, I had scripts, and then I would film it, and I would voice over, and then, I would show it at family dinners on Sundays. And strangely enough, that really informed me as a writer, at a young age. Because Star Wars is like the whole reason that I became a writer.
Do you think that helped normalize the idea of scripts? I feel like a lot of times, even all of us who love to write as kids, screenplays are usually not the format that you're thinking about. Usually we're just kind of vomiting out short stories or something novella linked.
Well, like growing up, I had no idea that you could be a screenwriter as a career, let alone what a script looked like. But then Star Wars came out, and I learned that there was the scripts and there's filmmaking, and that's how film happens. Yeah. And I was like, oh, that's what I want to do. And so then I wrote it. I found I somehow found some copy of a script in a magazine, a page of it or two. And I was like, oh, I'm going to do it just like that. And that's how I created my opus for my Star Wars versus Barbie.
The path into this. I know there's several paths that folks can take to kind of get into TV writing. Oftentimes it ends up being a basically unpaid internship for a few years, it seems like. I know you did the Writers on the Verge program. Can you talk a bit about what breaks you got and what you were happy you went out for?
Yeah. To be, a lot of people start off as a writer's assistant or writer's PA. Those jobs pay crap. It's indentured servitude. Unless you come from a wealthy family, you can't do those jobs.
Yeah, there's a conversation happening on Twitter right now about diversity in front of the camera. We're not really going to get that the way we think we are if the only people who can trickle up to the showrunner positions are trust funds.
Yeah. And, I was a PA, and I was broke all the time and charging everything on credit cards. Mm-hmm. I worked as an assistant. I got a couple of freelance assignments in half hour when I got started, and that helped buffer, the poverty. But, it was when I rebranded, I applied to Writers on the Verge. I wanted to become a drama writer. I applied with the Grey's Anatomy scripts. I love Grey's Anatomy. And I got into the program, and then I got out, but then there was a writer's strike, so they weren't helping people find jobs. Mm-hmm. And then years later, I ended up getting on Grimm, and I was on Grimm for 2 seasons.
Wanting to go into drama, obviously loving Star Wars, you've got a genre background or a nerd love for genre.
Yeah.
But can you talk about what thrills you as a writer that there's a common thread for you between Grey's Anatomy and Star Wars and Grimm and Arrow?
Yeah.
What's the through line of the characters, or what are you looking for that you love?
What I'm drawn to is relationship material, like character-driven material. I think when we talk about character, it's character-driven. I think you're really talking about it's relationship-driven. I'm really interested in relationships between characters. Everything is family. Grimm is family, Arrow's family, Grey's Anatomy is family. Everything is either a family you're born into or a family you choose to be or a family that you work with. And the idea of taking those relationships and stretching them and seeing how far you can twist them before they break, and can that tissue be repaired between the characters, that emotional tissue, and that's the stuff that I always look for.
We talked a little bit about San Diego. You teach or run a panel at San Diego that you started up. Can you talk a bit about Intro to TV Writing? That phrase could mean a lot of stuff. I mean, whether it's learning that path of writer's assistant and what those job titles are, or whether it's actually talking about the structure. Can you talk a little bit about what you were wanting to impart by starting that and what you teach in it?
I started at WonderCon first because I was thinking, there's a component that's missing in the festival that was people are fans, but they want to write, and all the fans write fan fiction. So, why not give them an opportunity to see how actually the sausage gets made, and how you become a writer? And first, I did it just myself. It was just me telling people, here's my experience from being on
what happened to you,
George Lopez show. And then as I got more experience, I was Comic-Con asked me to do it again, and asked me to do it at Comic-Con instead of WonderCon. So I was like, God, it's big league. And so I started asking people whose work I like, people who are nice people, like executives and producers and showrunners. Do you want to be on this panel? And they were like, sure, because everyone who wants to help out is cool. And they say, yes. Yeah. It's essentially the panel I would have killed for when I was on the other side. So I like to think that by doing the panel, I hope that we're inspiring, encouraging someone on the in the audience to follow their dream.
I feel like that same audience is here at this fest as well, but the panels are a lot more expressly geared for it.
Yeah.
Because at Comic-Con you do expect a lot of just fan questions.
Yes.
I love Green Lantern, blah.
Right.
And at this fest you get a room full of people, all of whom have a script somewhere in a drawer, and half of whom don't know what to do next.
Yeah.
And so it's something that I really love about this Austin Film Fest in this space is the focus on writers trickles down to the other side. You get a lot of people that attend this fest that are at that top point of fandom where they really want to push, they want to find the door to cross over into that other side.
The thing I like about this festival, which I didn't realize, this is my first year at the festival, and I'm having a great time, but it's it is all writer-based and writer-driven and writer peer-to-peer information, and I think that's so great.
Yes, it does make for a crazy weekend of talking about your script and your writing and stuff, and often if you're working in isolation and you only have one or two friends, especially if you live in Austin, you don't live in LA, you might be your only friend that is obsessed with this.
Right. It's hard to write in a bubble. You have no idea. When you first start off, your first script you write is going to be crap. And you should write another one, and it'll be less crappy. And then they'll start to they're okay, and then they're good, and then they're better, and then they're great, and you're really in your stride as a writer. It's hard to not have you should get a writer's group, no matter where you live. Even in LA, I was in a writer's group for years, and you can get an idea of, is your material landing with people who read it. If someone says, if everyone is saying, oh, this is great, and then one person says, oh, I didn't like it, then you're probably doing a good job. But if you're getting the same note from several people, then you probably need to take another look at that.
This seems stilted. People don't talk like that.
Yeah. I think dialogue is hard getting started for a lot of people. I think it was for me because I grew up using very formal language, and even the idea of not using a contraction was foreign, it's so strange for me to use.
I went to a friend's read-through for her script a few weeks ago, which was just a fantastic thing that people ought to do that I had never been to before. This idea that you should just put a call out on Facebook and get a few people to come over. You're bound to know some actors or people that want to be actors, or just friends that want to read it. And I don't think there was a single contraction in the entire script. But it had never sounded that way to her.
You have to hear it when you write it. Yeah.
And immediately, as soon as we started reading, you could hear her pen scratch. Because she caught it immediately of oh, everybody sounds boarding school formal. But it didn't, in her head, it didn't click that way.
Right.
And
I mean, if that character is boarding school formal, then great, but nobody speaks like that.
And you don't need every character to slur everything and contract everything.
Yeah.
But, not everybody's casual teenager.
Right.
But you could see this light bulb go off immediately of how to differentiate her characters, and her script was 1,000% stronger.
Yeah. Oh, great.
Boom. Just by fixing that one note, you're going to make your script better.
Yeah.
In terms of what you've taken from Room to Room, George Lopez, and into Grimm, and on to Arrow. Is there anything that you've really picked up where you think that is the way, if I were show running, that I would run this room, or that I would try to get this group to bond?
I think in my experience, I've learned how I would like to run a room by witnessing how I don't like being run in a room.
Yeah, I think that's frequently a lot of our learning lessons.
Yeah, but I think the idea that you can foster a room that fosters people to open up and to share their feelings and their experiences that will go into characters, and not at the same time punish them for that, and to allow them to grow. I think a lot of people make the mistake of, well, I have to be the best person in the room. If it's the showrunner or if it's like a lower level writer, the showrunner should be happy when someone can come in and write the show as well, if not better, than their own show they created, because they're making your job easier. Yeah. And as a showrunner, that's what you want. But as a rank and file, you are there to serve at the pleasure of the president. So you have to just work. You have to generate ideas. You have to be positive. You have to be able to churn out a script for them, and that's all you have control over is what you can do. It'd be great to work with the best, nicest, coolest people all the time, but chances are, especially at the lower level, you're not going to have that chance. So you have to just do your job and hopefully you're working in a great room and make good friends while you're, coworkers while you're in the room.
Have you ever had a hardest note you got where it was your darling? I mean, this is a Spiro idea that you love, but it doesn't fit the tone of the show, and you had to kill it.
Oh, I think there's in pitching when you'll pitch them, how about this, and that people be like, oh, that will never happen. I'm sure that there are lots of little darlings along the way, but ultimately it's whenever they're shot down, I'm like, that's okay, I got another one, and that's kind of the attitude you should have. If you only have one idea ever, then you wrote a script, but you're not a writer. You have to be able to generate new ideas, new dialogue.
Did you ever have a point in your personal writing where you had to work to flip that switch of attitude about taking notes on your work?
Oh, I think early in my career, it's like, why are you saying all these horrible things about my script? Which is really a way below that is, why are you attacking me? Or why are you saying these horrible things about me because it's so personal? And it's hard to separate when you're getting started you from the script, because usually what you're writing is something
that touches you.
Yeah, because you're moved enough to write about it. So when someone tears it apart because, frankly, the structure isn't there, or the action isn't good, or the characters all seem to sound the same, you take that as a personal attack, but it's not. If you want the work to be better, you have to have a tough skin, but still be open. Still be.
I had somebody one time describe scripts to me as an invitation to collaborate. That when you finish the first draft, you haven't written a novel that's done. You've written the starting point of a collaborative story. That from here forward, you're just going to start gaining people until you get up to a couple hundred folks and make this show.
Sure.
And that for them, keeping that attitude of I wrote it, I laid it down, it is now a collaborative document.
Yeah.
In a certain degree. And that was kind of a way for them to divorce themselves from they're no longer personally attacking me. We're all looking at this baby project and trying to make it work. And I did my part and separated, because it does feel like personally attacking, especially early in, like you said, your first few scripts are going to suck.
Yeah.
I mean, your first drawings suck. My first time I wrote the alphabet sucked.
Yeah, the first time you speak a foreign language, it sucks. You learn a foreign language, it sucks. You're awful.
And so learning to separate that, learning to normalize getting notes and getting used to that has been one of the biggest things for me since college, of trying to, like you said, not just write a script, but be a writer.
Yeah.
It means being able to rewrite and being able to take those notes. Do you remember a time recently where you've, let's say, maybe not fallen off the wagon about that, but had a really hard time?
Well, I think I have a project now set up at a studio, and they bought the script, and they're like, we love it. And then they're like, all right, now completely take it apart. I'm like, oh, you love it. Why do I have to re-break it if you love it so much? And it was really hard to, the script it had been around for 2 seasons. If someone finally saw it and liked it, saw and it was a very personal script about my family. And they're like, oh, we love all these characters. Who are they? I'm like, well, that's my family. They're like, oh my God, tell us more about the story, and we want to option it and do a rewrite. And so then for them to be like, oh, make the beginning the end and the end the beginning and cut off this and change it, I was like, all right, like let me, process all of this. And then I had to sit down and be like, all right, they want to move this scene, they want to get rid of this scene, I really like this scene, but, at some point, if you want something made, you have to make concessions, not to the point where it's diluted of any voice. Mm-hmm. There were certainly things that I pushed back on, because I was like, but wait, this is really an important character scene. But like, if you're telling me there's a way to make it better that you see, then sure, I want to do that.
Yeah, we're taking that to mean that, okay, I know this is a very important scene. Clearly, it's not hitting important enough for them to get what I'm... So I got to strengthen it. You got to change it somehow.
How can... obviously, I haven't sold it to you.
Yeah.
So how can I sell it to you?
Yes, exactly. You got a way with words. You should write. And thank you so much for chatting with me about all this today. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me. It's been fun. It's been a fun weekend.
The TV Dudes is an independently run podcast and a member of the Electric Sweater Podcast Network. We are exclusively listener-supported. If you'd like to help us out, go to patreon.com/TVDudes. You can like us on Facebook and Twitter @TV Dudes. All the music for our show is by our friend and original TV dude, Gregory J. Amani Smith. To find out more about us, go to thetvdudes.com and electricsweater.com. I'm Grant Davis. Thanks for listening.